Good afternoon everyone and welcome to today's webinar. For those of you who don't recognise my voice, my name is Mike, and today what we'll be covering is the integration between Prima and Evolution, delving into some frequently asked questions that our customer care team gets regarding sort of the integration and setting a few bits up, as well as delving a little bit deeper into the integration. So there's going to be some new bits that we're going to be going through regarding with setup and how you can sort of amend the schedule to make life a little bit easier for yourselves if you do have this link. So what I'll be going through first is basically what you need to do to ensure that your customers are set up in Prima and then are actually are exported to Evolution. So there's a few bits that you need to think of within this area. So if I just bring up a test company that we've got. So let's use this Mike Stationery one here within one of our test databases. And there's a number of points that you need to be aware of if you are using Evolution, especially when it comes to your customers exporting, because if it doesn't meet this criteria, then it won't be exported, and you may be left with sort of your customers not being able to log into your store, and obviously that's not a situation that you want to be in. So starting off, the first thing that you need to be aware of is that a company won't export if they are on hold. So within this trading status area, there is a on hold option. So if your customer's not paying up, then if the trading status is on hold, then they will not be exported. So if you've got a bit of a bad payer and they're setting up a new account or a new contact, then you want to make sure that they've paid up before you do anything else, because it won't be exported. So that's the first thing to look out for, that your customer can't be on hold within Prima. The next option that you need to be aware of for a customer to export is not to be marked as just a prospect or a supplier. You need to have at least this customer tick box here marked as something, so otherwise they won't be exported. So it can be, say, prospect and customer, supplier and customer, or all three if you really want. But as long as they've got that customer tick box enabled, then you should be good to go. The next bit is, again, important, and it links in with sort of two. So if you have this, then you can kill two birds with one stone effectively. For a company to meet the criteria to export to Evolution, you must have at least one web-enabled contact, and and the primary contact must be web-enabled. So you're killing two birds with one stone there, in the sense of all you need to do is make sure the primary contact within here, and then if we go into the web access tab, is ticked to be web enabled. Now, one point that a few customers do get caught up on with this is, for that web enabled tick box to stay ticked, you must enter an account logon, an account password. So this is a test account that we use sort of our end. So for yourself setting up Evolution, you may want to use the customer's email address here, and then just a sort of a password. It may be their account code, wherever it may be within this area. And then once you've entered both the account logon and password, the web enabled will stay ticked. Okay, and once that is ticked, that will kill sort of both of them options, in the sense that you will have a web enabled contact, and the primary contact must be web enabled. Now, if you've got a user that's set currently to be the primary contact that needs to be someone else, so it could be that on this account Mike Smith isn't the primary contact, it could be Rob, then you can use Rob, and all you need to do is double click into the relevant contact and just tick primary contact here. So that's something that you can do. If you want to change it to someone else, you want to make sure that the customer is live and will work, and it could be that the user you've currently got set as primary contact isn't actually a buyer. It could be, say, the financial contact or just the first person that was set up. Then you can easily change the primary contact by just ticking this option. Okay. Now, just one thing to note, that if your customer doesn't meet all of this criteria, then the contracts won't be exported. So if you've made amendments to a contract, then it doesn't actually fit the mold that it needs to be, then it won't be exported. So that's something to think about. So if your customer's not exported, neither will the contract pricing. And that moves on to sort of the next point. So in order for a company to export, you must have at least one line on a contract for that company. So could be that you just add in any product if you've not got a contract set up, but for the majority of your customers you may well have items on the contract. So within this area there's quite a few items in here that are already set up, but if you go into the main account, then contract/pack lists, you'll be able to set up and add lines to a contract within here, and that way you can ensure that your company will be exported. And then the final option, which is probably the key sort of thing to remember, which does go a little bit missed, is the company must have had a change made today. Now that can be as what we've done here. We've changed the primary contact and this last modified date here is updated to today. Or an easy thing to do, just put a space after the company name, delete it again and save, and as we can see that's updated again. So there's all different ways that you can make sure a change has been made, and making sure that that last modified date is today, that will update. So ensuring that you meet all of that above criteria, so not to be on hold, not to be a prospect or a supplier, it must be a customer. The primary contact to be web enabled, which will resolve the having a web enabled contact, and if and you need to have a line on the contract as well. And then the final thing is making sure that that has been changed today. Now one final thing just to cover regarding locations going across. If your customer set up a new branch somewhere and you want to ensure that they can see that branch online on the store, you need to ensure that you have a web enabled contact against that location. So for example here we've got two other locations, Test and West. Now them locations will not be exported if this database was live on LinkedIn, for the simple fact we haven't got any contacts listed against that. So we've only got someone located at the south and the HQ location as well. So that's something to think about. If you do set up a new location and you want it to export, then you need to have a contact assigned against it that's web enabled. Otherwise you'll probably have to set it up within Evolution's end. So that is the sort of criteria for a customer to be exported. Just a few more bits within the customer tab to ensure that your live pricing will work. So as customers know, with Evolution there is the live pricing link, which will take sort of the pricing from your Prima system. So the first thing to check, if your customer's reported, my live pricing, live pricing doesn't seem to be working, they'll more than often just say, my pricing seems to be out, sort of what's going on. Then the easiest way for you to actually check where that price is pulling from, and to see if it's actually working, or the customer's sort of not looking in the right area, is to just price check an item. So the live pricing uses the sort of basically works off the rules within here. So within your Prima system, obviously we've got a hierarchy in the way our pricing works, and if you just spot check and search a specific item, and we can see within here that it's on the contract, then it will take that price. But if your item wasn't on the contract and it was using pricing bands or a mailer item, you can just price check that item and you'll be aware of where the pricing's pulling from, and then you can attach it to what's happening within Evolution. It could be if the price is wrong, then more than often the cases that come across is it's a pack size issue. For example, in Evolution's end you could be looking at each, but then in Prima it's set up with a specific price of say a pack of 5. That is the more common option. In that case you just have to change the pack size to ensure that they're getting the right price. So that's one way to check. Just price check and see what price is pulling through, because it uses basically this price check area to calculate the price on Evolution's end. Now if it isn't working and you've price checked and the price seems to be fine, what needs to happen for the price check to work is the email against contacts must be unique. So if that contact's logging in and their email address exists somewhere else within Prima, then it may not work. So for example, easiest way to check, we'll just check against Mike's account, and this email here must be unique to this account, and if it exists anywhere else in a location or a company, then you will have a bit of an issue. So the easiest way to check if your customer does report that the pricing isn't working is if you go into the company and contacts area, we can expand the bar at the very top, and within this contact email area we can actually just paste this in and have a look at what's come back. So for example here, if this customer was to be using Evolution, the live pricing wouldn't be working because that email exists in another 4 contacts. So it'd be a case of you'd have to remove it from the irrelevant contacts and leave it within the one that you actually want to use. Again, within the location area, we can check if it exists against the location. We expand the blue bar at the very top. We can search for an email address within here. Doesn't exist against any location, so as far as we're aware, locations are fine. It's just the contacts that would be causing this individual an issue with the pricing on the web. So once that had been resolved, once the duplicate emails have been removed, then we'd be good to go, and that customer sort of should be fine to use the pricing within the sort of Evolution end. Okay. Now, if you don't have live pricing set up, then just ask and we can send across the key for that to be working. So if if you've not got live pricing, you're not using the pricing from Prima, which I'm sure that everyone should be. Speak to sort of the guys at Evo, and we can send across the live price key to get that set up. The final thing that we do have within that's changed a little bit is the way that the export works and it is set up. So historically, this was something set upon the actual database as sort of like a script, but now it's something that's been added and inbuilt into Prima. So if I just go into your administration, under here we've added a few new sort of fields within here to help with this. So if I go under the general area, so if you're looking to set up the new two-way link, you can go into the general and the cloud services option here. And as you can see, we've got a few examples within here already, and one of them is Evolution. So if we were to set up a new one, we'd put new cloud service. From the service, we would select export, and then from the provider, we would select Evolution. Now we'd hit add. Now obviously there's already one in there, so we won't be able to add it again, but if this wasn't already set up, you'd be able to use this one. And basically within here, we have an option for an API key and a secret, which is just a bit of a note. So what you'll be able to get from Evolution is a username and password. The username is the API key and the password is the secret. Pop them in here, save and close, and that's the start of the link done. That's all you have to do to get it set up. Then we have to sort of run it on a time. So we usually run the execution once a day at the end of the day. So once you've been making all the changes to your companies and you've been sort of setting people up, at the end of the day the export runs and we'll export anything within that period. So to set this up, it's under automation, under auto export setup, and you can see here we've already got an option for Evolution. So what we would do if this wasn't set up, we would hit add automated export job. From the instance here, we would select the Evolution, so we click new, select the Evolution, save it, and then we would add a schedule here. So it's a little bit like if anyone uses the schedule within the order pads or the automated reports. It's the exact same way that this works. You can set it to run on a certain amount of days. So if we want it to be running every week, so say you run a shop and you're making changes to your companies on a Saturday, Sunday, over the weekend, you can have it running every day. And then at the very top, you've got a time that it runs at. So, for example, if you're having some issues with a customer not going over, you're struggling to get the set up, you are able to come in here and amend this and amend the time that it exports. So, if rather than you waiting just once a day to export, you can come into here and say, right, okay, well, I want it to run at 4, or I want it to run at 3. And then you can just move it back a little bit later on and it'll sort of run the export again. So within here you can actually come in here and amend this. You can put in the time that you want it to run, you can customize it down to what it suits yourself. So at the moment for a lot of our customers it's set up to run once a day, sort of out of hours, but you are able to amend that if you want, and that can be found within automation, auto export setup, and within here. Now with this export, we use the EDI now to export. So within sort of the EDI jobs, within the export process, one of them processes will be the Evolution export. So if your EDC isn't running and it hits, for example, this one's set to be 5 o'clock. So say if the person that runs your EDI turns the computer off at 5 o'clock and goes home, then the export won't run. So if you are using this two-way link, then your EDI needs to be running all the time. So if your customers aren't going and you're not sure why, everything seems to be set up fine, make sure your EDI is running. And a way to check whether anything has exported is the EDI exports the files into a specific folder within the Prima v6. So within your C drive of the computer that's running it, the Prima v6 folder, there is an external file. And then within here we can see this XML file, which is a contract price list for Evolution. So we can see the last time this run was on the 12th of the 10th. But as you're going along, if you want to check that it's run the night before, you can just come into here, and that date modified should be the previous date, and that will overwrite and update as you're doing the different exports. So that's the new bit that's been added in, so you can check in here if something has run and what has been sent as well. So that's on the Prima v6 and external folder. So just a quick recap before we do finish, because that's sort of everything that we've been through. For a customer to actually export to Evolution, it has got to it's not to be on hold. So with that status, it's got to be sort of either a sort of priority trading status or normal trading. It can't be a prospect or a supplier. It must be a customer. You need to have at least one primary web enabled contact, and the primary contact must be web enabled within that as well. If a company is not sent, your contract prices will not be in that export file either. So that's something to think about. And you need to have at least one line on the contract for the company, and it must have a change made today. So making sure you follow through the things that we've been through, that'll make life a little bit easier for you if you're using Evolution to get your companies across. But apart from that, that's all that we've been through. Need to go through today. If you do have any questions, we'll be hanging around for a little bit. Today we do have Ollie on the live chat. But apart from that, if you want any one-to-one going through any questions, queries that you may have on this, please let us know. But apart from that, thank you for your time, and enjoy your weekend.